at midday reflection and procession so that we go about marching on and making this thing so that we come to see and value the many lessons that come about in life. And the one thing that we must note to ourselves in this accord is that despite what you've been through in life, that is not the determining factor of what life is about. Because some people judge life because of ups and downs, wins and losses. But life carries its own energy. And in that, despite how many times you have been cheated and yet you're still going, despite how many times you've been counted out and you're still marching forward, despite there was a unanimous consensus in you not being worth a damn, you're still pulling strong. Now, the reason I go about saying this, it's only to go about alluding to the fact that we must be, how would I rather say this? We must come to the notion and hold on to the belief that it doesn't matter what others feel, say, or how they look at how I'm doing things, but more go on the notion that it's okay for me to go about believing in my dreams. Because in believing in your dreams, then it will give you that energy that you need to go about propelling forward. Your dreams are your dreams alone. Like in the live I did yesterday, talking about the soul, it was more in regards to coming to find out who you are, what makes you so unique as an individual. Now, adding on to talking about the soul, it's looking at different aspects of yourself. Let's look at the different makeups, because sometimes we neglect or we fail to go about realizing what's our temperament. And our temperament is very, very important, because too many times we get irritated over things that have no business or no cause to become irritated about. The one thing that I ask of each and every person is that in any reaction that you may give off or that you may go about displaying, ask yourself, why did I behave or why did I react to what just transpired? And then when you come to discover that you are giving attention into things which holds no merit or weight on the way how you are looking at life, that will be something that you could push to the side. Because our temperament, we are quick to speak, but slow to listen. We are quick to get irritated We are quick to get angered. We are quick to be enraged when it does not call for that. We have to come to understand, why are we behaving in such a manner that it is not deemed necessary or appropriate to go about behaving in such manner. Now, in looking at your temperament, there are things that will go about inciting a feeling of total bliss within your being. Then there will be things that will ravage or pull your energy down. And with those things, if you must go about making a list of all the things that incite for you to become this wonderful person, and vice versa, make a list of all the things that causes you to be this nasty person, and see what the commonalities are. Because a lot of us, we are going about holding on to things which only goes about bringing us down, which only goes about causing us to become enraged, which goes about causing us to be filled with anger. And anger is a slow path to destruction. We don't need to be on a path to destruction, you see. And that's why it's key. It is vital to your success that you go about looking at the way you go about reacting to things. Because kids are allowed to react because they don't know better. They're still learning. But once you reach a certain age in life, nobody tolerates foolishness anymore. We could tolerate a kid because that's natural to the kid's development and process. But once you reach a certain age, look around. The stupid shit you used to say when you was 5 and 6, you get to a certain age, don't nobody find it funny no more. The temper tantrums that you used to have when you were 5 and 6 was tolerable because you didn't know better. But have a temper tantrum as an adult. See who cares. See who goes about stopping what they're doing just to go about attending to your needs. It's idiotic at best. So we must become aware of the way how we go about carrying ourselves, at how we go about leaving ourselves vulnerable to those who are trying to go about preying on us. Because if you take out a dollar bill right now, and you flip the dollar bill, above the pyramid there is an eye. Now the eye is supposed to go about representing that God is always watching. But you can go about interpreting that eye in many different ways. And one of those ways is somebody is always looking at you, at how you carry yourself, at how you go about speaking, at what your confident level is, and all sorts of matters. Now, if you go about exposing your weakness and your vulnerabilities to the wrong person, what do you think they're going to go about doing? Don't you believe they will go about trying to go about testing and using your vulnerability against you? That's the job of a con man. He looks at what you're lacking just in order to go about manipulating the situation to having you believe he got the answer. But it's just that he doesn't have the answer. You want to believe a lie. That's why you listen to the con and his BS. But for us not to get to that place, for us to be taken advantage of, we must come to terms with our temperament, with how we carry on. You see, the totally absurd part in all of this is that one that has not become cautious of how he goes about conducting himself have no sense of direction. And having no sense of direction, it oftentimes leads one to go where he doesn't belong. And when you find yourself in a position that brings about a strenuous level of uncertainty, it's only because you have left yourself open. And in leaving yourself open, it makes it hard. Because if you are not looking at yourself and paying attention to what's going on with yourself, and looking at how you are going around conducting yourself, then you're living reckless. And anything that lives reckless has no boundaries, and it's all over the place. If we would look, your vehicle, your motorcycle, or whatever machinery that you have become familiar with and operating. Hey, what's going on? How we doing today? Bless up, man. Thanks for tuning back in. I see. You keep changing names, huh? Okay, that's what's up. So, so anybody who have any machinery that they have become accustomed to, and in that everything is governed. What I mean by governed is your machine is not meant to go crazy till it breaks itself. Your machinery is governed so that it could limit itself and operate within a safe operating specs. You have other aspects of life that is governed and how they go about operating. Now, the reason I wanted to go about using machinery in this aspect was to show that just because they put fail-safe on equipment and machinery for it to go about operating safely, we in turn need to go about looking at how we are doing things. At times, we might get irritated, we might get frustrated, but that does not give us the right to conduct ourselves in an idiotic manner. Watch how you are doing things. Watch how you are conducting yourself, because the key point for this whole thing is that somebody is always watching you. You may not realize, like RZ, my man is a multi-sport athlete. I like that. And in that he's engaging in a process. And one of the things, like I tell everybody who's in sports, is that at any meet, at any match, whatever, go about giving it all you got. Because you never know, a scout might be there just to go about seeing what kind of temperament you have. How do you go about preparing for a match? How do you greet your opponent? Is there a respect level? Are you confident in how you go about carrying yourself? That goes into temperament. We must be aware of how we are doing things. We have to stop living reckless and expecting everybody to go about accepting our disgusting behaviors. Because not everybody comes from that attitude of, oh well. And that is the sad part. That is the sad part, in that we are condoning and upholding these kids to have that nonchalant, lackadaisical attitude of, oh well. Life is not oh well. Life is putting effort into it. Life is governing yourself. Life is watching what you do. Life is doing what is required of you. And the only way to go about doing what is required of you is that you must have a baseline. And having a baseline, you will know the do's and don'ts of your attitude, your behavior, your outlook. And that's why it's key. It's very important that we go about paying attention to our temperament, because you never know who's looking. And I've known some guys, good athletes, 5-star athletes, but their work ethics was trash. And they all had this ideology and belief that they was the greatest thing since sliced bread. So when their opportunities came time for them to go about getting a scholarship, they were passed up for lesser athletes. And in them becoming passed up for lesser athletes, it hurt their little pride and how they looked at life, because everybody was pumping them up, but nobody was going around preparing these guys. Nobody wanted to go about correcting the wrong in which they were, attitude in which they were holding. You see, when you want to become the total package in this lifetime, you must be a renaissance. And in becoming a renaissance, you must be well-rounded. You must be versed in all different aspects of life. But to become versed in all different aspects of life, one must go about looking at themselves. And in looking at themselves, they must come to know what kind of person they really are. And when we come to go about knowing that person that we are inherently born to be, it becomes easier. It's as if though when you see others misbehaving, acting a fool, taking plays off, one almost become inclined to say, that's not what I want to do, because there's somewhere that I want to go about getting in life. And for us to go about getting somewhere in life, we must be able to realize, visualize, and analyze worthlessness, so that we do not go about partaking in these worthless things, you see. And so many times, the nonsense, the foolishness becomes so enticing, because if everybody is doing it, then it must be a good thing. But if I'm the only one doing it, then something must be wrong with me. But if you're the only one doing what's right, stay on track because not each and everybody has a sense of direction. You see, correction comes when those who have courage to stand up and do what's right go about doing it. It has become so socially acceptable that everybody just goes along with the group and no one questions or validate what's going on. And in that measure, the temperament has become lost because we no longer look at what we are doing. We're so consumed and worried about what everybody else will say or how we will be viewed. So we in turn become afraid to be ourselves. But in being yourself, you have to hold yourself to a higher standard. It's not going about accepting less, but it's demanding more of yourself. And in demanding more of yourself, that's when you will start to go about achieving that greatness. I don't think I've ever met anybody who've played a sport, who've been serious about sports, and say they just want to be average. I've yet to meet this person. Everybody say they want to be great. Maybe it's just a catchphrase. Maybe it's a little thing that everybody hears, and they have become repetitive in that notion that they want to be great. But the great ones, they truly work at it. They go about identifying their weaknesses and working on their weaknesses. You see, if you do not become a renaissance, you are not working on your weaknesses. And that's the only way to get better. Like case in point, I take my son to the park. Dude could hit. I give him that. But other aspects of the game, as far as running down a ball in the outfield, it's a hit and miss because he becomes discouraged when the sun gets in his eye. And I understand there's a difficulty basis there. But like what I tell him, life is about adapting. Use tricks to go about limiting the sun blinding you while you're still tracking the ball. And that is something we continuously work on. But the reason I wanted to implement that is I often use sports as a reference to life. Just because something is difficult, that does not mean you go about turning away from it. You work at it. And in working at it, you do not become discouraged because the more you work at it, you will see what it is you're doing wrong. And one of the things is, like what I tell them, nobody gives a damn about your attitude. So I don't want to see no attitude. I don't want to hear no complaining because the world will not give a damn about your complaining. The world will not give a damn the sun was in your eye. All the world cares about if you could do what you said you were going to do. And that is something that we must implement. If I am tasked to go about doing something, then it's best I go about getting it done because nobody cares about my attitude. Nobody cares about my whining. Nobody cares that I tripped over my feet. So in order for us to go about being effective, we have to look at why am I whining? Why am I blaming others? And when we come to see that, at looking at my attitude and my temperament and how I go about doing things, that is the building block and the foundation that we need. You see, everything has a time and a place. It's not every day you're supposed to be upset. And such in that it's not every day you're supposed to be smiling. It's not every day you're supposed to be angry. It's not every day you're supposed to be cheerful. But one thing about life is that despite what we go through, we have to present life with a consistency on how we go about looking at life. Like one of the things I constantly talk to my brother about, and he's an avid reader of the Bible and so forth. And I must give the man his credit because that's where he's at in life. And in that, he says, man, Ben, on a good day, I'll hold my Bible in my hand. But on a gloomy day, I gotta reconsider because it's some trials and tribulations. And my keynote to my brother and to you is that find consistency in anything that you go about doing. Do not let the situation go about changing you, but you go about changing the situation. And with consistency, with a constant positive attitude, a constant positive outlook, despite what takes place, you have won already. Because once you come to comfort the idea, once I've done my best, then I'll let faith, Fate, go about doing the rest. Things are going to be the way they're going to be. Like I said, some of us have been cheated in life. Some of us have been talked down. Some of y'all have been told that you were never going to become anything because you were lazy, because you couldn't keep up with the crowd, or just because you did things from a different perspective. But that doesn't matter after today. The only thing that matters is that we go about looking at how we feel about the situation that we're in. And for us to go about embodying a positive attitude. Albert Einstein was taught to be disabled, one of the brightest minds. Nikola Tesla was taught to be a weirdo. That's why you have lights in your house today. It doesn't matter what others go about saying about you. The only thing that matters is how you go about conducting yourself when faced with adversity. And like I said before, be on your P's and Q's because somebody is always watching. It's either an opportunity that awaits you or it's a con man who is willing to go about taking advantage of you. So you have to become mindful. You have to watch how you carry yourself. Because like what they say, not every smile is sincere. Just because they tell you they care Don't blink because they await their opportunity. And in them trying to go about taking their opportunity, don't become a victim of circumstances. The streets is nothing nice for somebody who's not prepared. So watch how you move. Watch how you go about carrying on in these streets because people are always watching. Some people are your closest friends. Some of them people might be your own peoples, your own cousins and them. And they trying to see what your weakness is so they can go about getting their way. And if that don't make sense, let me go. And how you respond is very important. So the thing about temperament, it cultivates an attitude. It drives a desire. Because when you go about looking at how you are doing things, it will be the thing that you need to go about propelling you. And in propelling you, if one does not become satisfied with where they're on a mission to try to go about achieving that greatness that I was speaking about earlier. Because greatness is what goes about separating you from the next person in whatever you're doing. And when you go about working towards becoming the greatest person you know, then you will see that you have to go about incorporating some attitudes and behavior in how you go about looking at life. But like I was saying, the one thing that goes into temperament is that somebody is always looking. And this goes about speaking to the people who call themselves being manipulating in that they go about seeking out people who are lacking in certain areas. And because they look for the telltale signs and what this person is going around displaying. Like, I'm pretty sure a lot of you out there have heard the old talk in regards to it was just a matter of time before somebody did it. What I mean by that is any of us who goes about displaying a sign repetitively, somebody else is going to pick up on it. And you don't want the wrong person to go about picking up on it. And because these people who are predators and preys, they go about looking for the wrong signs. And they prey on people who have a certain vulnerability. And in having that vulnerability, well, let me say this before I continue in this regard, is that every human being walking this face of this earth has a desire and they have a want. The thing that you want to go about protecting as best as possible is you go about protecting your desires, your wants, and your lacking. Because everybody wants something out of life. Let it be to be appreciated, let it be to be heard, let it be just to be seen. And somebody's going to go about giving that to you. But at what cost? Like, there's this female I know. She's dealing with this dude. And this dude don't work, don't have a car. Okay, I understand that we all gonna fall on hard times in life. Life is just not a straight shot where it's just gonna be all uphill and all of us gonna be doing good. So I could get that. But when it's a constant, that's what I can't get. And with this dude not doing much for herself, her reply is rather shocking to me. And in that, at least I got a man. Now, if that's your classification of a man, then what would you do with a real man in your presence? But the reason I go about saying that in this regards is, from the first time that dude met that girl, he already peeped it that I could go about taking advantage. I don't really have to go about putting forth effort in order for me to go about being an equal in this relationship, because there's a disparity, there's a lacking within that female. She is so afraid to be by herself that she will go about tolerating anything. She pays all the bills, have the job, have the car. The only thing she requires of me is for me to show up. Now, that goes into that temperament that I was talking about. She believes she is winning. And in all actuality, that person is just going about bringing that young lady down. But because of where she's at, she does not come to know or realize what is taking place. Only because she wants to see what she wants to see, and is that I got a man. And in settling for less, life will become strenuous, and life Okay, I guess they having a conversation that I'm not aware of. Okay, so in her temperament being less than, it goes about allowing her to become used and becoming victimized by somebody that was taking advantage of the situation. And that's why I go about saying, become cautious in how you are looking at life and how you are approaching life and how you are going around presenting yourself. And in presenting yourself, don't leave yourself open, because in leaving yourself open, there are those in this world who will go about taking advantage of you. And that's why it's key that you go about looking at your temperament, looking at your attitudes, looking at your behaviors, looking at how you are doing things on a day-to-day basis. Because if you don't, some lessons are better to be learned by observing others. I don't want you to have to touch fire to know that fire is hot. I don't want you to have to run into the wall for you to know that the wall is not going to give. I need for you to go about assessing, realizing, and understanding that things carry on in a format. And because I have become studious and watching and observing, that it gives me the opportunity to go about looking at myself. And in everything that we do not become dismissive of it, because females have this, oh, she's stupid. That never happened to me. But if they look carefully enough, they're going to see that they're going through the same exact thing that they was going around condemning their friends for. All lessons come in different variations. But if we're not observant and going about realizing what's going on, then we ourselves go about falling into the same trap. So my advice to young men is that women gonna try to run game on you, but you have to be smart enough to realize worthiness from nonsense. And in being smart enough, you have to set boundaries for yourself. And in setting boundaries, don't have anybody pulling you and controlling you like a yo-yo. You see, if a young man lacks confidence, it's only because he's looking for validation from others, because he does not believe that he is capable enough in what he is saying. Validation comes from within. Validation comes when you start to realize your strengths and your weaknesses. Everyone could go about having an opinion, but not every opinion is worth a damn. Everybody got something to say, but a lot of it is just worthless noise. So you must be mindful and in what you go about giving your attention to. You must always look at yourself first and do not become quick to pass the blame on to others. Because one of the coldest games that I've ever gone about seeing is religion. All religion believe they're right, and they will always condemn the other person's belief and how they go about praising and so forth. But if we look at the baseline in regards to religion, it's all to pray to God. No matter what religion you practice or whatever, it's to one God. But how we go about getting there, it differentiates. It is varying in a lot of different ways. But because we go about becoming so condemning of what somebody else is practicing. But if we would just look carefully, a lot of times all religions are practicing the same foolishness. Because one should come pure at heart when they go about giving praise. One is not to go about passing judgment, blame on the next man. If one who knows better goes about passing judgment and does nothing to go about helping that man to see from a better perspective, then he does not know better. You see, the temperament. We must humble ourselves. And in humbling ourselves, we must start with looking at ourselves. It's not about looking outside. It's about looking within and how we are going about conducting and reacting to others who come around us. That is very important because the first impression is the lasting impression. And if you're thought as a clown at the first impression, no matter what you do, you will always be seen as a clown. If you're thought as being arrogant or ignorant, no matter what you do, you will always be seen as a stupid fool. So be careful of how you go about conducting yourselves, how you go about approaching, and how you go about displaying yourself to others. And in displaying yourself to others, you must come to know that mean what you say and say what you mean. Don't be wishy-washy. Don't be because of this situation or that circumstances. That's why things change. But be upfront, be upright, and say what you mean. Stand on yours. Be about your business. Because a lot of us, our mouths say a lot of things, but we not even having conviction behind what we talking about. It sounds good, but that's about it. It just sounds good. You don't want to be a sound good person. You want to be a business person. Every interaction in life is a business contract. Now, if you're going into business to lose, you got a problem. You should always look at life from a position of winning. Even if I'm losing, I'm still winning. I can't miss. Only because of the attitude and the temperament, which I have gone about implementing on a daily basis. That is something that you must do. You must implement these things in watching how you do it, why you are doing it, and what's making you do it. Because at the end of the day, can't nobody make you do nothing. You do it because you want to do it. So right, wrong, or indifferent, you have to come to realize a lot of choices that you've made in life, it's only because you have made that choice to go about doing whatever it is you set out to do. So start looking at these things. Start magnifying these things so that you can see, okay, maybe that was due to ignorance. Maybe that was due to following the crowd. Maybe that was due to curiosity, whatever the case may be. You have to come to know why you did what you did. Because, like I said before, only kids we could go with, and that's their favorite WAP. That's their favorite line, Why you do it? And that's understandable because they're still in the development stage. They're just trying to do a whole bunch of things just to see what happens. But at a certain point in time, we have to leave that behavior alone. We have to be conscientious in knowing why we're doing what we're doing. We have to look at it from a viewpoint and saying that, did I really need to have a negative attitude with that woman at the grocery store? Yes, she might have bumped me, but yet did I have to make a scene behind it? Was that really called for? Because they told me my kid was failing. Did I really need to go off on that teacher? You see, temperament is key, because the attitude that we go about displaying today affects tomorrow. Because if I see you acting like a bloody ass, why would I waste my time coming over to you and trying to talk to you? Because you have already shown me what kind of person you are. And in you displaying what kind of person you are, it makes it rather hard to go about addressing you. Even with the best of intentions, people that would want to try to go about helping you to advance in life, to go about seeing things from a better perspective. But because you go about displaying a negative, raunchy behavior, people will just pass you by. Now, you can't expect to do foolishness and expect good things to happen to you. It just doesn't work that way. So make it so that we go about looking at our temperament, man. Make it so that we look within ourselves and we go about seeing how we're carrying on, how we're dealing with life on a whole. And in dealing with life on a whole, we have to be honest with ourselves. We all have done some stupid things in life. Don't get me wrong. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's asking you to be perfect. The only thing that life is asking of you is look at what you're doing and go about building upon what you're doing. Because you can't carry on in a manner with a nasty attitude and expect everybody to be okay with that. That's not how life works. Life is only asking that you become a willing participant. And in becoming a willing participant, it leaves room for improvement and growth so that you become that renaissance that you were to become. Life is asking you to be well-rounded in all aspects of things. The attitude, the outlook, the behavior, how you carry the confidence. But in order for us to go about achieving these things, we must really go about assessing how we are doing things. Some people believe that they're not going to change for nobody. And because they have this attitude that people better accept them or else. That might be cool in your little neighborhood because everybody knows you. You might be the man on your block. You might be the man in high school, wherever you work or whatever the case may be. But that attitude don't hold true, because when you go where somebody doesn't know you, that attitude is not tolerated. So no matter how bad you think you are, no matter how outlandish people go about accepting your behavior, if we are not taking a constant inventory of some of the things we're incorporating in our life and some of the things that we're pushing out, we will be put in our place. Like what I always tell my kids. People only act stupid. They're not really stupid, because All these characters on the streets running around talking about I got a Glock this, Glock that. If they was about that life, they wouldn't be able to talk about that. But everybody does things in order to go about receiving attention. Now, attention is something that we all must be cautious of. And in being cautious of this attention, not all attention is good attention. Like I told you, watch how you carry yourself. Because like-minded people hang out with like-minded people. You ain't never gonna see a banker and a thief hanging out. Well, they some thieves, but one is trying to make bread, the other one is trying to take bread. You see, an honest person and a liar, they not gonna be friends. So the reason I go about saying that is that when we go about displaying ourselves in certain manner, we're going around attracting certain kind of people to hang around us and become our daily norm. And in them becoming our daily norm, it's very frightening. And it's frightening in the fact that because a lot of times we don't even go about realizing how we are conducting ourselves. And they say birds of a feather flock together. So when we find ourselves with people who are cowardice, having no backbone, and quick to become dismissive of anything that has transpired, it's only because we present ourselves as coward. You will never see a coward and a brave person hanging out. It just doesn't work. Two different energies. Now, if you believe you're a coward and you're hanging out with somebody who is brave, that's going to show you you're really not a coward. If you're a caring person and you go around somebody who is not so caring, the compatibility will not be there. But now the reason I go about bringing all these different things up is to show when we go about knowing ourselves, coming to know ourselves, coming to live our existence in our true self, then it goes about illuminating what kind of person we will tolerate around us and what kind of behaviors will be accepted. Because your life is not a bar. Only a bar doesn't give a damn about what kind of behavior comes in there. Because its main purpose is to go about selling a product, which will inebriate you to go about heightening what kind of idiot you really are. You see, I know many of you have heard this before. A drunk man's thoughts is honesty. And a sober person will lie to you. Now, because of the temperament in which they hold, they're so afraid to go about speaking their truth. They need that extra assistance just to go about getting whatever it's been boggled up, hindering them. They need that assistance to go about putting it forward. And in needing that assistance to go about putting it forward, it's usually in a nasty manner. Because their temperament have been left unchecked. So they need an outside source just to go about clearing their mind. But it's done in a weak demeanor. And that's why they never get respect. They don't get respect because they don't conduct themselves in a respectful manner. You see where I'm going with this temperament business? When we go about expecting more of ourselves, then it will force others to go about coming to the realization of who you are. Because once you go about conducting yourself in a consistent manner, I don't care if it's young, old, middle age, they will all see the same thing because there's a level of consistency. And that is what we must strive to go about being in life. Remember I said, life is no straight line. You're going to have the ups and downs. You're going to have the little peaks and valleys. But your attitude, your outlook, your demeanor, your posture, it must go about presenting itself in a level of consistency. That is the key. Your temperament has a lot to go about doing with it. Like days in where I'm trying to go about every day, I wanted to go about bringing something new that we could go about incorporating into our lives. Yesterday was talking about purpose. Today, I need for us to go about looking at our temperament. And when we could go about finding our purpose, when we could go about looking at our temperament, when we could go about displaying certain things, then we will get the understanding in which we are lacking. And if anybody believes they're not lacking, they have lost already. One must come to know there's always something to work on. Nobody is that bona fide in life. Nobody is 100%, because despite how others may go about feeling about you, I want you to let them love things know that I'm a work in progress. That's what it is. We are all work in progress. So don't become discontent. Don't become abusive in how you see things. Things change when you go about making that change. Don't let things stay the same. Now that you have been given the keys, go ahead and use it so that things may open up for you. And in things opening up for you, it will help you get to a better place. But you must incorporate these viewpoints, because if you don't look at what you're doing, then what you're doing will start looking at you. It's almost crazy in that at times we call ourselves watching TV. But because we're so mentally drained, fatigued, exhausted, we are not watching TV. TV is watching us, because yet we cannot go about keeping up. And that is the shame. That is the thing that we are fighting to go about attacking. You are that warrior. Fight. You must fight for yourself. You must incorporate an attitude, a behavior, which is positive. That's the key. So that you may go about seeing that you have what it takes. Everything you need for this journey is within you. You just have to go about exercising it. And that's the blessing. My love. 1.